Hello, my name is Dr. Charles Ikejiani. I am an orthopedic surgeon. I work out of Royal Victoria Hospital in Barrie, Ontario. I have privileges at University Health Network, University of Toronto and Toronto Western. My main practice in orthopedics here is in trauma and reconstructive surgery. Reconstructive surgery would include hip and knee replacements with a big emphasis and focus on redos, in other words, revision hip and knee replacements, which are fairly complex procedures. I've been asked by Dr. Lee, who was my honors thesis supervisor at Ikejiani University in my undergraduate years, to give a talk and give some sort of advice to some of the students, and I thought the best way to do that would be to parallel my experiences that I've had, and hopefully that'll be something that you can look at and take the advice. Full disclosure, I've never been to the University of Fraser Valley, nor have I ever been to Abbotsford. I've been to Vancouver and Victoria and Whistler. But even though I've never been there, I feel like I understand the community and know the community well, because like most universities of higher learning, it seems to have excellent education, teachers, PhDs, etc., and very keen students. And that's what's important in my mind for a good university. I want to thank Dr. Lee because she was my honors thesis supervisor and is my mentor and is a critical part of my success. In terms of my success and things that I did to get to where I am, I want to thank my parents, and I'll take it back through my parents. My parents were from Nigeria. My dad was a pathologist working at the General Hospital in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. They're both originally from Nigeria. And the journey for my parents was such that my father did receive a scholarship after he was finished high school to come study abroad. In Nigerian terms, studying abroad means you go out of the country. And so his journey led him to University of New Brunswick, where he was very keen in science and finished a Bachelor of Science degrees. From there, he went on to do a PhD and a master's and PhD in microbiology and pathology at the University of Chicago and University of Michigan, respectively. And before going back, he decided to do a fellowship year or a postdoctoral year in University of Toronto. While he was at University of Toronto, his supervisors advised him to study medicine, go into medical school. And at the time, he didn't think he would make it in medical school. He didn't think he'd get accepted. He was obviously a black student at that time. It wasn't common to go to medical school, but he decided to take their advice and he applied and he got into medical school, and he did well. Finished medical school, finished his pathology residency, and then decided to go back to Nigeria. From there, he met my parents, had a family. He flourished in Nigeria, did well, and was involved in creating the science program in different universities, lecturing, teaching, and eventually politics, where he was the Minister of Railway, which is a fairly big post back then, and was doing well in Nigeria. Around the time I was born, unfortunately Nigeria had a bloody civil war called the Biafran War, and I would encourage all of you to look up the Biafran War and look up Nigeria in general. And just in summary, Nigeria is a very prosperous country with oil and lots of resources, but the management and government has never been perfectly stable. And part of it is because there's different cultural divides and several different cultural groups that were put together during the colonial times to form this country called Nigeria. And those colonial groups would include ethnic groups like the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Hausa, which are different groups that have different cultures. Much like in Canada, we have French and English. It was very similar. They have different languages, different cultures, etc., etc. In any event, the Biafran War was a bloody civil war that many, many Nigerians died in the late 60s, early 70s. And at that time, my parents decided to leave the country for their safety. And the journey led them to take us to Portugal, to Germany, and then eventually to Canada, where my father had an affinity for Canadians and for Canada, partly because of his undergraduate years and, of course, his medical school years there. He also had lots of family or friends in Canada that he could call upon, and came back to start to do some work in Ottawa, but eventually settled down in a small town called Glace Bay in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where essentially I grew up. Now, Glace Bay at that time and it is a small town in Cape Breton. It was very prosperous at that time. We had the coal mining industry, the Sydney Steel plant, heavy water plant. So there was plenty of jobs. It was a great little town to grow up in. You may ask, why did he settle in that small town? Well, I think it was partly because of the foreign physicians that existed in the town at the time. And there was many physicians from different countries, India, Pakistan, European, different African countries. And that really welcomed my dad. My dad was very welcomed by that. And so growing up in the town was fantastic. Although small, it was fantastic. There was lots of sports, lots of academics, etc. And that's where I come in. So in my upbringing, if you want to call it, I played tons of sports. And, all the sports, including hockey, baseball, basketball. And my journey started with hockey and baseball, and I thought I was going to be an NHL player, Wayne Gretzky and so forth. And then realizing that wasn't the case, I decided to play basketball. And in my grade 7, grade 8 years, I tried out for the basketball team, but lo and behold, I got cut. And that was devastating for me. After being cut from the basketball team, I decided at that point, and my motto for my parents was always, if you don't succeed at first, try again. But at that point, I actually took a metal hanger, made it round, hooked it onto the door, and I practiced the whole winter trying to perfect my layup and jump shots and so forth. And of course I did, and did very well. And my plan was to not only start on the basketball team, but also be involved in taking our team to the provincial level, which I did. And so my basketball years flourished, and basketball clearly became my sport, to play and to pursue a university scholarship with. It wasn't until I was in probably late junior high, early high school, my parents finally got through to me that academics are very important, and I always liked science. The turning point for me was it was a Saturday, I remember it very well, when my dad asked me to come to the lab. He's a pathologist in the town. He said, come see what I do at work. And I looked outside and I thought, it's raining, it's not a great day. Why not? What do I have to lose? Let's go in. So I went in with my dad, and there was 1 or 2 lab techs there, and they were showing me the slides and how they do the stains, and my dad was showing me the normal tissue and the abnormal tissue, and I thought to myself, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. Science. This is it. And of course, from there, my blinders were on. Like, I want to do science. I want to do research. I want to be like my dad. And of all the children that my dad had, I was the only one that went into science and medical school. Others went into law and architecture, political science, etc. So I think he was quite happy. It even got more solidified when I went in to see an autopsy, and I thought, whoa, take me away. And so from there, I really put my nose to the books to try to get my academics up, and did so, and finished very well in my high school class, and received an academic and sports scholarship in basketball to Acadia University. I had multiple offers, but Acadia seemed to be the best fit, and we had some family members that had gone to Acadia. My parents were happy with that, so I went to Acadia. Now at Acadia, it's higher learning, much like University of Fraser Valley, and it was awesome. The experience was great. I played on the varsity basketball team, but I'm not going to lie to you, my first 2 years I did not play. I was on the bench. I practiced, and I realized that there were a lot more players. And like I said, if at first you don't succeed, try again, and try harder. And I certainly worked my way into being a starter in my third and fourth year, which was fantastic. Basketball for me was an outlet, and my advice to you is find something that's an outlet. It doesn't have to be basketball, it could be a sport, it could be an activity, something that'll take your mind away from just academics. It's important to have academics, but you want to have both. And like anything, you want a balance. So for me, the balance was obviously playing basketball, but I really focused on the academics. It was in my fourth year that I met Dr. Lee, and she agreed to be my thesis supervisor. I worked very hard to do the research, to write my thesis, and eventually to have an exam, an oral exam. And I remember it very to this day. It's a critical moment for me in terms of advancing to the next level, because once I was able to finish this with Dr. Lee, I realized that I could do anything I wanted. I could go into a master's, PhD, med school, etc., etc. So it was a really big confidence builder, and to this day, I would thank Dr. Lee for that. It was a pivotal point in my career. The other thing that I gained from university at Acadia in my undergraduate years was circle of friends. So I met all my friends, university professors, etc., which, now we have the COVID and the bubble. They were kind of my bubble, circle of friends that carry on to this day, that I can look on for advice, and certainly they can look to me for advice as well. So upon completion at Acadia, I went to medical school at Dalhousie University, and eventually went into residency. While at Dalhousie Medical School, I realized that I liked orthopedic surgery. I have a mentor, Dr. David Petrie, who inspired me to do orthopedics. So I completed a residency in orthopedics at Dalhousie, and eventually wanted to go and do further studies, where I went to do fellowship in joint reconstruction and trauma at University of Toronto for a year, and then eventually another fellowship in arthroplasty revision at University of Manitoba in Winnipeg. From there we settled in Barrie, Ontario, where I've been working as an orthopedic surgeon for the past 18 years. So that's in summary my journey. I've had help along the way from family, from mentors like Dr. Lee, from my other fellow students, etc. My advice to you is number one, work hard, enjoy what you do, and work hard. Realize that anything you do is going to be a constant learning and relearning. Even to this day, as an orthopedic surgeon, I'm still relearning things and new techniques, and etc., etc. So it's a lifelong learning experience. Number two, have a circle of friends. Have friends and colleagues that you can call upon, that you trust, that can help you, and you can help them as well. Number three, have an outlet. Life is not all just about work or your studies. Have some other interests. My big interest now is golf. I'm getting a bit old for basketball, so I do lots of golf. My son has a golf scholarship, probably partly my influence. I love golf simulators and the technology behind all that. So that's kind of my outlet now. So for you, have an outlet, whatever it is, whether it's painting, dancing, whichever, a sport of some sort, but something that can give you enjoyment outside of science and schoolwork, etc., etc. And then finally, work hard and never give up. So whatever your goals may be, be patient, take it one step at a time. Eventually things will happen, and good things always happen to people that work hard. So work hard and enjoy what you do. That's about all I have to say. I hope this was helpful for some of you. It's kind of my journey through things, and everybody will have their own path in terms of how they do things. The end goal is to be happy and enjoy what you do, and have a good outlet and circle of friends. So I'm looking forward to meeting some of you at some point, whether it be Zoom or in person. Of course, with the pandemic, we don't know what is happening with traveling and etc. So most likely it will be Zoom. Good luck with things, and I look forward to meeting some of you soon. Thanks.